Smile 2 is directed by Parker Finn and stars Naomi Scott and among others. And this story it deals with a pop star who is about to go on tour and she starts noticing some really crazy shit that she starts seeing. And it's very similar to the first one in how there's this entity that essentially infects the host, and the host starts seeing some really crazy shit going on. And it goes into some very psychological kind of stuff that I won't go into detail with, but it gets pretty out there. And it also expands on some stuff with the first one in the ways of more of what we established with the entity itself. Now, here's a little backstory. Now, this movie was directed by Parker Finn, who did the first Smile film, and I got to admit that when the first Smile movie came out, I was a little not really expecting much. I thought it was going to be like your typical type of, entity type of horror film that comes and goes and like a lot of stuff we've seen, but it really did something really great in its own right, because even though it used similar stuff that we saw with movies like The Ring or It Follows and stuff like that, it still brought something very unique with the idea of essentially this kind of entity that is taking the kind of route that what The Happening did, where essentially the host is that whatever it infects or whatever gets to a point where unless it pretty much like transfers it to somebody else, it causes them to kill themselves. And if you remember The Happening, they did that where it infects someone and they cause themselves to die, but there was really no explanation for it. But it was also very bizarre in that regard because that was all about plants and stuff. So imagine something like that, but done a lot. For me, it was done a lot. But for me, Smile did that a lot better in that regard with the way it executed with its concept of it. And so the first Smile movie really surprised me and was one of the biggest surprises for 2022. And I was actually really curious what they were going to do with the sequel. And when I was seeing the first trailers of this, I couldn't be more excited because this is one of those kind of movies that really was in the right time, because there was also another film we had earlier this year that was kind of like a similar kind of angle with The Substance with Demi Moore, and how she's essentially she's been in that there's a person that's very famous who's been around for a long time, and you see a lot of the stuff that the person is going through as far as in that case it was body horror, but in this one we're starting to see a lot of the surrounding impacts it has with not only their personal life but also the ways that it has in the business world, with the pops. In this case, it's the pop star world. And so I gotta admit, after really upon seeing the film, I was blown away by this. This was everything that I really loved to see from the first one, but more expanded on. And actually, in a lot of ways, I do enjoy this a lot more than the first one, despite me really enjoying the first one as well. And so, to get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were great. Naomi Scott, she really carries this movie so much. With her performance, she not only goes for the edge with a lot of the stuff where she's very scared shitless in a lot of scenes. But I really admire her as an actress, especially coming off of her roles I've seen her in, with where she played the Pink Ranger in Power Rangers from 2017, and then I did actually enjoy her as Jasmine in the remake of Aladdin, and so she's really come in as a good actress in her own right. And here she really gets to shine with not only being scared shitless, but also the way that she goes through, and not only having to emote so much, especially with dealing with the stuff that's involved with her mother in this. That's wants her to go on tour and everything. It's very pressuring and all that. A lot of the struggles that she goes through, you really feel for her. And she's just such a great to watch in this. And the rest of the cast is really great too. The one that really stands out the most, surprisingly enough, was, funny enough, is Jack Nicholson's son, Ray. And if you've seen from the trailers, you know that he has that scene where he's in that he's got that suit on and he's going up to her and he's all smiling and stuff. He's the dead ringer. He's got the same type of grin just like his dad. And man, I hope he gets more roles in the future, because if they ever do another adaptation of The Shining, if they were going to go more closer to the book or anything, as that, or maybe not The Shining, but something else that would probably be like his dad probably would have started in something like that, I would really love to see Ray Nicholson really do more stuff like that in the future, especially in more horror films, because he really goes for it in this. And he was great, and then the production design, especially the way it captures a lot of the pop star scenes and stuff, I thought were really great. A lot of the dance sequences and everything, and the choreography that they do in a lot of parts is very not only disturbing at times, because it's very unpredictable the way it plays out. Because the way that they timed the jump scares was not only very interesting with how you're seeing how the scenes play out like you kind of do in the first one, but the thing that really holds it strong is the way that the sound makes it timed, where you would hear pretty much a very loud noise that's not only had me on the edge, but it comes out of nowhere at points, and I was just freaking out in the theater. One of the other biggest things I got to really appreciate is the whole psychological feel with how when when Sky is seeing all this crazy stuff that's happening, it goes into some territory that does have some kind of dreamlike type of sequences that you're not really sure is really like real or not. And that's one of the things I really enjoy too, is how the movie is very unpredictable in that regard. And there's a couple sequences that you kind of can tell that the entity is taking control of stuff and doing things here and there with. But the way it plays it out, it gives you that kind of like questionable feeling, like, oh, okay, is this actually happening or is it all in her head, sort of thing. And they actually do kind of a cool little twist on something later on in the film that I found myself very interested in, because I'm not going to spoil anything, but essentially it kind of does a 180 where she pretty much has a way where she can take control of where she can take control of her actions instead of having the entity take it itself. And I thought that was really interesting how they did that. And one of the other biggest praise I have to see is the direction in this, because a lot of the camera choices they do where things are pretty much upside down, like you see the shots of the city and stuff, I actually enjoy that, because essentially it's trying to be that whole symbolic, like turn that frown upside down kind of thing. So that was really great. And then also the way that they expand on in the beginning of the film I thought was really interesting, because they do actually pick up like right where the end of the first movie left off. And I'm not going to go into spoilers, but it has something that really, like, I did kind of feel was a little spoiled in the trailers and stuff. And so I thought that was kind of like something I kind of knew what was going to happen. But at the same time, I like where it had it set up, because they explore some stuff in this, the way the entity works and everything. And it also has a climax in this film that I thought was not only really like going really out there and really fun to see with a lot of the stuff that this kind of like type of entity does, but also the way that it's pretty much setting itself up for something bigger down the line. So if they do a third one, I really want to see how this plays out in the future, because the ending really got me. It really caught me. It really got me really hooked in the way it played out, and it was one of the most like disturbing things I've seen along with the substance all year, with the way they do these certain sequences. And the gore is hell. It's gory as hell in a lot of scenes, with some stuff that the way that the entity, when it attacks its hosts and they kill themselves for its victims throughout the film, was not only gory as fuck, but man, just the way that you're seeing just the kind of smile that they leave on them and stuff, it's just, it gives you it makes you that very unnerving feel. And the score as well, I got to really hand it to. It's very haunting the way it plays out, and like it also has that kind of like 80s type of synthesizer type of sound to it too that I really enjoy. Or in some cases when they're doing like the dance, the pop sequences, it has that kind of synthetic synth pop type of vibe that I really enjoy. And so there's more I can go into detail. The only kind of minor little con I would probably say what the movie holds back is there are some typical scares that you kind of see that are happening that may not always be great, but when they are very well timed in the way they play out. And on top of that, I gotta also say that some of the CGI can be noticeable at times with some of the blood here and there, but it didn't really take me off too much. And when it goes for certain effects toward the end, I could definitely see some of the things that don't really seem like they would be rendered properly, but it didn't really hold me back too much, because I was really surprised. I was like, my jaw was dropping just the way I was reacting to it in the theater. And so there's more and then there's also some other stuff that I did kind of question the longevity behind on certain things, like, okay, the way that the way that the entity is trying to come up with kind of like breaking certain rules and some stuff toward the later half, the third act, I did kind of question, but maybe that was probably intentional, because the way it was trying to play on a twist on that, and it was probably something that was taking, but there's probably more to it that I probably either missed or if I just had to like really think about on. And so with that, I'm going to give the movie a phenomenal grade on the Film Phreeks meter. It's definitely one of my favorites of the year. It knows Parker Finn really knows when it comes to this kind of franchise that I really hope they do more with. And so for those of you who have also seen Smile 2 and also the first one, let me know in the comments what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.